Hi, this is János, this is Real World Audio, and I'm here in the garden with Paul McGowan of PS Audio, and as you see, we are in the virtual space. And I'm not really sitting on this comfy chair, but sitting on this chair right here, which is a very modern optical illusion I'm proud to present. So I think by now everyone realized that this is a fun Audio Club Monday session, and it's really high time to have one of those. And today I'm using about this video that Paul made a while ago, titled "Why Aren't There More Horn Speakers?" So when Paul is making his videos, Paul McGowan, he has questions that come to him from viewers, from audiophiles, and they're asking all sorts of questions about audio, which is pretty much what my channel has morphed into these days in the past couple years. So when I started my Real World Audio channel, my purpose was to create an audio education for audiophiles and music lovers and people who have stereo or mono systems, you are listening to digital or analog, and you either want to know why it sounds good or why it doesn't work for you the way you want it, what can you make to change it to a direction that you want to, how you can find that way, and present you with different aspects, different paths, how you can reach what you want with the effort that you can put into. And that's how my channel developed, and I had in my head a schedule, a chronology of how I would build up sharing information towards that path. And in the beginning you see that I had these videos where I made these PowerPoint presentations which were the framework, and I followed kind of those, and really they were ad-lib presentations but had some sort of structure to them. And then people started asking questions, and then my channel just morphed into answering questions, because I get a nearly infinite amount of questions, and it just takes so much time to answer them that I really do not have any time left for any kind of structural content. And by this time, during these past 4 years that I had my channel, I just shared so much during the answering the questions that really when someone is listening to my videos, then you can just through osmosis just get what you want and what you want to know, what is useful for you. Of course, if you want to go back to the basics, then go back to my videos 4 years ago, and then look for my very first maybe couple dozen videos. They are the lowest quality, of course, I mean lowest visual quality, lowest tech, but they have good content. Actually, usually they are, I would say, much more thought out than my videos in general, which I just just tell whatever is on my mind most of the times, without any serious plans for any kind of structure. So what is the topic now? Why aren't there more horn speakers? And Paul made this video 3 years ago, and I think 3 years ago I made a video on this video as well, and now I just run into it again. And actually what he's saying here is just as relevant today as it was 3 years ago. So if he would have made this video 3 days ago, I think it would have been the exact same video, because the question is just as relevant today, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, 3 decades ago? It's the same question. And eventually the person who asked it, he was asking like, horns seem so perfect, so why aren't there more of them? And of course a lot of people would say, no, horns are not perfect, they are terrible. There's horn correlations, colorations, not coronations. Horn colorations. There are coronations too, but that's something completely different. But I don't think there are horn coronations. I never seen anyone crowned by a horn. But I've seen cats sticking their heads into a horn, so yeah, that's a horn coronation. And I've done the same thing too. So yes, there are horn coronations as well. And but it's not something perfect, but it's a lot of fun as yeah. So one thing that was very interesting about this video, I will put a link to it, and what I really, it's only less than 5 minute long video, so it's no pain to anyone to listen to those 4 minutes 30 seconds of Paul talking. Plus there's like hundreds of comments on it, and the comments thread is really good. So I just really recommend it to every audiophile who is interested in the subject, just to have fun and read through them. And it will be quite educational and fun, and then you will have all kinds of information coming at you, and it's really good. And it's there's like a lot of it where there are some misconceptions, there's a lot of information, so you see all levels of information. And so for example here he says, I love horn speakers from Klipsch, life-changing. And there's another one, Klipsch, love them. And then there will be others posting about Klipsch that they hate them. So what's happening here? Some people love it, some people hate it. Why? Because that's how everything in life works. You can take anything from any area of life, starting from colors, jobs, partners, food. You can pick any one objectively, and there will be two people, one saying I love it and the other say I absolutely hate it. The exact same thing. So what is the objective truth? This means that there is no objective truth, there's only subjective opinion. And when people state their subjective opinions, saying I love this or I hate this, and if they get really big in their head, they start to imagine that that's the objective truth. But because someone has a head this big, it doesn't mean that his subjective opinion has become the objective truth. It's just a subjective opinion. And if someone is smarter, then he can line up a dozen facts to create, to make it appear that yeah, his subjective idea has more validity aside from his own imagination and perception. However, luckily, Paul was not fixated on this kind of dilemma. That's the dilemma of many audiophiles, that who is right, who is not right. He gave us a really nice representation or summary that basically for horns you need big space, and that's not really feasible for most people. For most people, they want as small speakers as possible. So here I have these small Lagrange speakers, and for many, even these tiny babies are giant speakers. So now we have high power amplifiers, and with them we can make even small speakers, modern speakers, sound loud by achieving really high excursion of relatively smaller drivers. And that makes everyone happy, because especially your significant other, who doesn't want to see a refrigerator size horn, actually two of them for stereo, occupying or dominating your living space. And I think that was probably the main driving force why today we have non-horns dominating on the commercial market. Is that because there's a much better anti-reluctance or to get a small diminutive loudspeaker that does not dominate your living space. And however, when you start watching this video, the writer, so Paul reads out the email of the person who wrote about that, and that person says that personally he loves horns because of their vast dynamic range, so you can play super quiet parts in a horn and they will do that beautifully, and ear bleeding, ear splitting loud as well. And then Paul says, yeah, I'm not happy with the ear splitting part. And then here, this is where I want to add a piece of information that might be news to some and not news to others, is that when, in my experience, when I heard horns making your ears bleed, that was for two reasons. And it was not the horn that was to be blamed for making your ears bleed. One of them is that in a case when the rest of the system and the room acoustics and everything was really well developed and had no problems on their own, but the horn speaker had questionable parts in its crossover design, or maybe the crossover was poorly designed, or the horn was badly implemented. That's a really big problem with a lot of commercial horn speakers, that their tweeters, their upper frequencies, the compression driver, I just call it tweeter because that's how people imagine that. Of course, like you have the high frequencies with the tweeter, so in a horn you have a compression driver doing the tweeter's job. So that compression driver driving the high frequencies is often not properly leveled to the one that's doing the mid-range and the bass, but in some designs it can be like as much as 10 to 20 dB hotter than the rest of the frequency range, and then that will absolutely drill through your skull. It's just brutal, and it's like a gargantuan hearing aid. And if you're using it as a hearing aid, then it's life-changing for you. But if not, and you have good hearing, then it will be absolutely tragic. And that is something that I see. So when people employ horns like that, which are not designed properly, yet the market is full of them, that's a problem. But the other problem is just as relevant, is that even when you have a horn speaker that has properly designed crossover, properly leveled individual drivers, then that horn will reveal the weaknesses of your system. So if your amplifier has problems, your cables have problems, your connectors are of low quality, the horns will magnify it 1,000,000 times. And these small things, actually you can hear those problems with electrodynamic speakers as well, or planar speakers or other type of speakers. But with horns you can hear everything to like it's kind of like a much higher dynamic resolution, much higher speed resolution than other technologies in general. And if there are any problems, the horns will tell you that. So when your ears are bleeding with a horn when you play them loud, then that's an indication that there's something to be fine-tuned in your system. It's not that it's bad or it's wrong or something. It might be something just really tiny. Maybe you really need to get like better quality connectors, or just adjust something little. And and when you do that, then that annoying part, that tiring part, that shoutiness, something like that, it will be gone. And the good thing is that even if you don't like horns, you can, and if you have the space, let's say you have a big garage or something, a huge man cave, and two maybe, then just get a horn for yourself, a horn system, horn speaker, and then when you tweak and tune something on your audio chain, you will hear it much easier with the horn. What is the effect of what you did? So it's kind of like having a magnifier glass and looking through that magnifier to see or hear what was the change that you did, what is the effect of the change. So if you are not sure what the sound of a capacitor change or a capacitor upgrade is, then plug a horn speaker to your system, and then you will easily hear the change. And it's not something that only an audiophile with a golden or titanium ear can hear, but anyone, even those with hearing aid, report just that's a note, I heard that's different. So I think that's when audio is more practical, that you don't have to be like a golden ear or beryllium ear audiophile. Basically anyone can hear differences when the differences are made obvious to you, and horn speakers are making the differences really, really obvious. Now in my answering, that's why there are no more horn speakers. So Paul really gave us the number one reason why, is because they're too big, and people want something more compact. That's it. And then now we have higher power amps, and they are really happy with something compact, and people are really happy with something sitting in tiny spaces. There's no conspiracy behind that. That's it. And also when you scroll down for the comments, there will be several comments who will tell that that the problems with horn arise when we try to miniaturize them. The really big horn speakers sound fabulous, and I have run across several people who are certified horn haters, and after hearing some of these really gigantic horn systems, they said it's better than anything else they heard in their life. Yet they also maintain that these compromised smaller horns sound atrocious, and they're quite right about that, because in many cases they do. And the problem is when you try to shrink down the horn, and that's where the art of horn is. And that's why I on my channel have always been saying that horn is for the most experienced audiophile only, and get into horns after you spent like at least a decade, preferably 2 decades, playing around in audio. You already have a strong footing about amplification, source cabling, everything. You have developed the skills to hear what you must hear, what you should be able to hear, to develop things on your own, and then you are ready for horn speakers, and that they will be like a big leap beyond what you have now, whatever you have. Even if someone has like for those who are in the commercial land, if you have Wilson audio speakers, going to horns will be a monumental leap compared to a Wilson Chronosonic. But buying just horns for yourself, I wouldn't do that. Just to get horn speakers, buy something randomly. Probably it won't work. You won't be happy, because first you need to be an experienced audiophile to know what you want, to know, understand the signals, what you are hearing, why you don't like something, why you like something, what is it you want, and then develop in that direction that you want to. And why is it that horns are something desirable, something that have the, I think, they maybe not the highest, or because who has the highest potential? It depends on what you want, and what you want can change from hour to hour, day to day, year to year. What I want now is not what I wanted 10 years ago, and probably will be something different 50 years from now if I'm still alive. But in general, based on my observations, I think that horns have the greatest potential to produce natural sound, because in audio there are very, very different pursuits. There is one path that goes in one direction, and that path is like the hardcore mic feed believers who says that this is what I heard in the mic feed and I want to have the exact same experience reproduced. And they don't really not looking into how a variety of recorded material that you already have in your library sound, but they're looking at just being in a specific recording studio, hearing musicians in an extremely tightly controlled environment, every parameter controlled, and reproducing the exact same thing in a very specific recording. And those experiences that you have in the recording studio, you can have when you are using that kind of systems building strategy. And it's fun. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to know that strategy will be exclusively, explicitly satisfactory with those materials that you have recorded with that path, with that system, that orientation. And if you just grab for something on your shelf, let's say like Santana, or you reach for something that's like whatever, then for that it will not work. Sometimes it fails miserably. And the more you narrow down, the more you specialize into a niche, the less chance will be to that it will be able to reproduce a big music library. So you will become a specialist. That was one avenue. And there is another avenue, is that to which I am a big good proponent. So what I think, what I want for myself, not just think, but what I practice myself, is to have a system that can play a really wide variety of music in the most natural way. And that is because when I grew up, how my musical taste developed, they developed by listening to unamplified music. And essentially whatever audio gear you have, whatever you want, you desire, what you think sounds good, is extremely heavily biased and influenced by how your ears were trained. What is your center line? What is your guiding pillar? What is your foundation? Because if it is amplified music, so you've gone to concerts where they used transistor amplifiers to amplify it, like PA systems, then that will be the ethalon for you. And that's why you will just exclusively listen to solid state amplifiers, because they sound exactly like the solid state amplifiers you listen to at those concerts where they were used as PA amplifiers. But does it mean that they have a natural sound? Well, they have the same sound as the PA system that was used for those concerts. But is it good or bad? It's up to you. If you think it's good, then for you it's good. For me, my ears are calibrated to unamplified instruments like violin, guitar, people singing, upright bass, cello, those kinds of things, piano, different kinds of pianos, drums. I'm a drummer. I drum very little, but I drum. And that's how these instruments sound real life. They are my beacon. And when I build a system, I want to build them to get that kind of feeling from the widest array of recordings that I own in my collection. I think I'm getting kind of wandering far and wide, but now I'm circling the airport and landing. The landing gear is out, and now we are landing back on the airport on our feet. And why have I said all of that? And what? That's because when your aim is natural sound, then horns will be your ultimate solution. Why? Because what horns are, the horn is not the speaker. It's not the element that's making the sound. As Paul said here in this video, horns are amplifiers. They are acoustic amplifiers. Within the horn, there's the compression driver. If we are looking at a tweeter range of frequencies, it's a compression driver producing the sound. And when we put the horn in front of that compression driver, the horn acts as an amplifier, as an acoustic amplifier. So it doesn't need electricity to amplify the sound. It uses the acoustic properties of the horn to amplify the sound of the compression driver. So yes, and that's why you can use like a 2-watt or a 1-watt amplifier or a 10-watt, whatever, low power amplifier. Some people use just milliwatt amplifiers that have a few milliwatts of power, a few tens of milliwatts. And because the horn adds another 10 to 20 dB of amplification to the sound. And what does that have anything to do with natural sound? Everything. Because every single natural instrument, even the human voice, relies extremely heavily on acoustic amplification. So every instrument, if you look at the development of guitar, the development of violin, the development of sitar or charade or any instrument or piano, all of the development was how they made the instrument to be a better acoustic amplifier, a better waveguide for those frequencies that the instrument produces. And that's true not just for the wind instruments like a tuba or a flute or a saxophone, but the violin as well. It is an acoustic amplifier of the sounds that are produced when you just pluck on the strings. and there as like a nice Stradivarius violin and a violin that is made from cheap wood, made for your first grade kids who are just learning music. The very big difference between them is that the Stradivarius will have like I have not measured in dBs, but at least 10 maybe 20 dB louder than the beginner violin. It's a much more efficient acoustic resonator than the basic violin, and people just often are stunned when they handle a really high quality violin. Oh my god, the volume, the body that this instrument has is just stunning, astonishing. Like, oh, this violin has a stronger bass than my sister's cello, and the cello is a big instrument, and the tiny violin has stronger bass than the big cello. It's that much more efficient acoustic resonator. And also it doesn't just stop with the instruments, it's also in the room acoustics. So the performance halls, the amphitheaters, everywhere where humans perform, they use acoustic amplification to deliver the sound to you. And using horns, we employ also acoustic amplification and not electronic amplification. So whenever we employ electronic amplification, it uses of course electronic amplification adds some colorations as we amplify more and more. Horn using or acoustic amplification also adds colorations as we amplify more. The huge difference between the two of them is that on an evolutionary scale, we as humans developed with the acoustic colorations. That's natural for us, because when you go to a frigging concert, people playing on their instruments, then you will hear acoustic amplification, both from the instrument, from the singer, and from the auditory where you are or at the venue. And when the venue is bad, yeah, you will hear it sounds poor. But when it's good or natural or very good, then that's the best experience you have. It will be a much better experience than a poor venue with a PA amplified system. Even like a poor venue that requires a PA system, even if the PA system is the best, it just does not get to that level of experience where a good venue with natural instruments is at. So I think that's the most important aspect. So that's why horns have a massive advantage over their speaker counterparts who rely on the electronics to do that plus 10 to 20 dB or more of extra amplification that the horns are doing. So if you can shave off like even if you shave off 6 dBs from the electronic amplification, that's kind of like almost like getting rid of a stage in your amplifier, and that's like absolutely massive. You are getting rid of that many colorations, and some of you say, oh, I just apply more feedback. Yeah, you can apply more feedback to remove those colorations, but it's going to remove that many low-level detail and destroy some finer structures of the music itself. And it will just make the sound, it can make it like very illusory, very hype, very intriguing, very fascinating, but not natural. And yeah, so I think that's it. So if your goal is to have natural sound, then my recommendation is to progress towards horns. But before you go into horns, just have whatever speaker your system you have and perfect your audio chain that feeds that speaker. Learn how your room acoustics work, how your room works, perfect your hearing, And when all is in place and you have a solid foundation, that's when you start playing around with horns. Maybe just buy a horn system first, and start to modify it, and create what you want, and develop it to something, what you want to achieve. And yeah, I think that's it for now. Thank you, Paul, for being here, and thank you, team, for tuning in. And I hope this was a little bit helpful for everyone. And have an amazing Monday. Bye bye.